Welcome to the Backyard Professor videos. I'm out here in a place called Hell's Half Acre. It's the lava flow that occurred some 4,100 years ago here in southeast Idaho. It's a beautiful morning. I'm about a half a mile off the interstate. I didn't realize it was going to be this flippin' noisy with the traffic. Just approaching sunrise. It's a beautiful morning, Saturday, October, 15th, 16th, something like that. Heavens, I don't know. I don't keep track of stuff like that. I just enjoy every day as it comes. Hell's Half Acre is a fascinating lava flow with lots and lots of sagebrush and interesting wildlife. And way off there to the south, I don't know if you can see it. I'll see if I can zoom in on it. Yeah, there we go. There's the big southern butte out on the Snake River Plain, and there's the middle butte right there on your way to Arco. About 50 miles away. Pretty good zoom on this camera, huh? I'm going to share some more principles on sacred geometry with you. Give you an interesting discussion on. I'm going to use Robert Lawler, his book Sacred Geometry, probably one of the most spiritual and insightful books that I have ever read on this subject. I'm going to do some of his workbook ideas with you and share some ideas with you about the simple construction of a square. What is a square? How do we produce a square? And why is the square so significant? Last week I talked about the monad. This week I'm going to do some exercises with you on the square. Just for the pure fun of it. Because the square is a very interesting feature in sacred geometry. Lawler says it always signifies a crossing. The square is a crossing. There's some interesting energy patterns, some beautiful symmetry to be found in squares. I'm going to share some ideas and hopefully do a little exercise. When we study sacred geometry, we study the philosophy behind the principles, the philosophy behind the laws, and the actual practice of bringing those laws into light and manifestation. Now, if you're going to do this series with me, I want you to get a pencil, a straight edge, a compass, and some paper. And I brought some with me, and I'm going to show you some constructions. It's one thing to read about it in a book like Robert Lawler's or Michael Schneider, which I also brought with me. It's another thing to actually do it yourself. By performing the exercises in and of themselves, the exercises are a meditation. Someone asked me, what's a good meditation that you can recommend? I'll tell you, good meditation, the best meditation you can possibly find is life. In the LDS scriptures, the Lord told Moses, he said, all things are they which testify of me. So if all things testify of Christ, the mountains, the trees, the earth itself, the heavens, rocks, dirt, plants, flowers, streams, lakes, oceans, animals, minerals, vegetables, if all things testify of Christ, then it logically follows that absolutely every single day you're awake, every living moment can and ought to be a meditation. One of the key disciplines, I believe, that helps you focus your meditation is certainly sacred geometry. And so that's why I'm doing this series. But Lawler discusses this idea of the primal act, the division of unity, that I think is extremely interesting when he says, those who use geometric figures to describe the beginning of creation must attempt to show how an absolute unity can become multiplicity and diversity. Geometry attempts to recapture the orderly movement from an infinite formlessness to an endless, interconnected array of forms. And in recreating this mysterious passage from 1 to 2, it renders it symbolically visible. Now, from both the metaphysical and the natural viewpoints, it is false to say that in order to arrive at 2, you simply add 1 and 1. That's not what happens. That's not how 1 becomes 2. He says, for 1 by definition is singular. It is unity, therefore it is all inclusive. It is all inclusive, the number 1. There cannot be 2 ones. Unity, as the perfect symbol of God, divides itself from within itself, thus creating 2. So what we have here is the self and the me of God, so to speak, the creator unity and the created multiplicity. Unity creates by dividing itself. And this is what Michael Schneider, that I shared with you last week, also indicated, and I'm going to show that to you. Unity divides itself, much like a cell divides from within itself. You don't just bring along another cell and ta-da, there's 2 cells. No. The single cell will begin within itself and then it divides. Very fascinating idea, isn't it? How 1 divides itself is very interesting. First you have your compass, of course. You open your compass. It begins with the central point. You put the central point here, boink, and then you whirl a circle. Now that circle divides from within in itself. So with your original radius, you then put the center on the outside edge of that circle, and you whirl another circle through the center of the first circle, and voila. You've got the 1 that divided itself into 2. You have 1 circle and 2 circles, and then you have this central image called the vesica piscis, where the 2 circles overlap. That is how 1 becomes 2. Very simple. Do that exercise. Meditate what you're doing. You're whirling universes into existence. Symbolic universes. The miracle of the circle is not only in the space outside the circle, but it is the miraculous space within the circle. Ponder that when you make your circles. And there we go. There's one of the most magnificent circles in our entire existence, just rising over the horizon. I did catch the sunrise. Awesome. There's the most important circle in our lives right there. It's magnificent to be awake, be able to catch the beautiful sunrise. Now we've got light of the day. The Egyptians made a big deal about the sunrise. It was a very, very important event in their lives, as it was with the Mayan, the Aztec, the Africans. Everybody appreciates the sun. That's certainly the reason we can live on this planet right there, is because of that circle in the sky. Okay, let's get back to sacred geometry. Quit goofing around. Okay, now that we have our 2 circles drawn, you have 2 contact points where they overlap, and you have the 2 centers of the circle. These are automatic places where you can connect. So you take your straight edge, you connect the centers, just like that. That line of energy connects the points, and then the points where you overlap in the vesica piscis, you connect that. Now what you do is you set your radius of your compass from the center point between the circles to the outer rim of this circle. You set your radius to that width. Then you centralize at the crossing point the compass, and you whirl another square. You whirl another circle, I mean. Boy, I don't even know the difference between circles and squares, do I?